Great. Thanks so much for having me. And as always, thank you so much to this community. You have been so great to all the charities and even the new charities you're talking to of this is a really great concept and we're glad to be a part of it. So Child Enrichment is a nonprofit in Augusta, Georgia, and we serve 9 counties in our service area. And what we do is we provide a voice and a path forward for local children that have been abused or neglected or trafficked. We're not just any other nonprofit. We've helped over 24,500 local children through our 2 programs, which are our Child Advocacy Center and our CASA program, which stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. What our team is doing is really changing the lives and creating a better path forward for children. We've had a proven track record of success with kids that have completed the programs we offer. And really, we try to just make the community a safer place for kids to grow up in. I'll explain our programs a little bit because sometimes they might not be things people are that familiar with. So, our CASA program, which is court appointed special advocates, what we do is we recruit and train community volunteers to advocate for children in foster care. If you think of the foster care system anywhere in the country, there is they'll work with a CPS worker or foster care worker through the Department of Human Services or DFACS, Department of Family and Children Services. But those DFACS workers may have 50 kids on their caseload. What CASAs do is they provide one-on-one advocacy for that child. And they're the eyes and ears for the judge to provide recommendations on what they think should happen. So big picture things like if a child should be reunited and go back home if the parents have worked their case plan, or if they think a child should go move towards adoption and termination of parental rights. But then also little things like think of your home and imagine if you went to work or school or somewhere today and you just thought that's what you're doing and somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, you're coming into foster care now. You don't have any of the stuff that your favorite outfits, your pets, anything like that. That's all still at home." We'll advocate for a kid to get visits with their puppy or to be able to go to the church that they grew up in as opposed to maybe a different religious church that their foster parents are from. So we advocate for those little things as well because we want to make this as less traumatic as possible. We know that if a kid has a CASA volunteer, they're twice as likely to find a permanent home and they're going to spend half the amount of time in foster care. This is important because we know if you're looking at like criminal justice reform in mostly in the US, but right now, that's kind of what I'm mostly going to be talking about. We know 80% of people that are incarcerated have spent time in foster care. So we want to make sure we can limit that time or even eliminate kids coming into foster care. So we serve about 500 kids each year through that program. And then our other program is our Child Advocacy Center. That's where when there's if anybody has ever seen Law and Order SVU, sometimes there's child advocacy centers on there and it's not at all like the TV show portrays, but some of it is similar. So if there is a case of child abuse, so say a child is molested or trafficked, meaning they some sexual acts happen to them in exchange for money, then a child will come to our center and receive what's called a forensic interview. That's where we ask non-leading, non-suggestive questions and find out from a child what has happened to them. Law enforcement and DFACS are in another room watching that interview happen. Sometimes people think like, "Oh, are you guys a state agency then?" No, we're not. We're a private nonprofit. And that's by design that we're a neutral person doing this interview. And then we offer free trauma counseling to kids because we want them to heal from abuse. Last year, we served 1,087 kids. And we know that if those children do not receive counseling, they're likely to go on to have adverse childhood experiences, which can impact their health later on in life. There might be predestined to have drug use or incarceration, like I had talked about. So it's really important that treatment happens, and we offer all those services for free. So what has been so incredibly helpful is we have used the funding we received so far from SuperDoge to put it towards a capital campaign we're doing for a new facility. Our numbers of kids served has increased by 60% in the past 7 years, and we do not have the space to adequately provide the services in our area. So we are close to being able to break ground. We're anticipating breaking ground in January, and we will get back with the community, the SuperDoge community, depending on how much money we've had for naming rights. So already, I think we're at $83,000 we've received from the SuperDoge community. So what we're going to do is we'll be able to name a room after um, this coin and have the name on the room outside of it. So we still have a little ways to go before we can break ground, but that's just a preview of kind of what we do. Actually works. It fits so perfectly with everything that you guys are doing with your branding and marketing. We did a Heroes for Hope 5K this year for the first time. That was socially distanced, had staggered starts, but we had superheroes come out, and really just that whole model behind, we want these kids to realize that what happened to them does not need to be their defining factors, and they really are heroes.
The opportunity to give back. I really appreciate that. Water's Life is in 47 countries around the world, providing water, sanitation, and hygiene in those areas. I'm actually just leaving meetings with several of the indigenous peoples groups here in North America, and providing water solutions for them, not only small things, but also off-grid living opportunities with wind and solar power as well. But yeah, we do everything from in the water space, from water quality to water scarcity, in dealing with those. And we have some new technology that we'll be introducing this year. But really appreciate the opportunity to join on board, and look forward to taking you guys with me. That's one of the things that's a little different about Water's Life, is we want people to go with us. And so on some of these deployments, after we are able to do a few projects, let's see if we can't get this team going with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us here, Jerry, and all of the Super Doge community. We're really excited to be a part of this and to be able to learn more about what you're doing. And it's incredible what you're doing and how you're giving back. There's not a lot of that in this world, and it's really impressive to see.
So just to let you know, guys, this is my wife speaking. So Christine is an animal rights attorney, and basically for the past 19 years has done pro bono work for Rocket Dog.
Yeah, thank you. So Jerry, a lot of what we do in the past 20 years, we help animals, we help people, we help community, and a lot of that is organically grown directly from my childhood. And a little bit about that is that I was raised homeless on the streets. My mother was on drugs. She was a lost soul. There was chaos and violence and police and uncertainty. My mother would disappear for days and sometimes weeks at a time, and she'd leave me behind at these homeless camps. And I'd never experienced anybody taking care of me, and I felt lost and unseen and really unsure and endangered a lot. Like I was literally living like a feral child. Like I had no I can't remember being fed or clothed or even having a bed. And as my life went on, I went into, I'd fall into some dark places. At 12 years old, I was on my own, and I was, living in the junkyards in the old abandoned train cars with all the junkyard dogs. And, I was alone out there. And I think that really started this, I'd go to the shelters to visit the animals because it gave me a feeling of peace and connection. And I'd sit there with these animals that were behind these bars, and they, you know, I'd never, it was the one place where I would sit and have, a little quiet, like peaceful time, and I would feel that from these animals. But they were also, you know, nobody, quite often they were on the verge of falling through the cracks themselves or being euthanized, or, nobody knowing that they were there. And I met a dog one day. He's a big hound dog, and our connection was immediate. And he looked so directly into my eyes that I could feel it in my soul. And, he was scared and he was alone. And, having been there, I recognized that, on a really on a level, that is almost unexplainable. And, I had to get out of there. He was going to be euthanized. And that moment and that dog saved my life and planted these seeds for who I am today, and why this organization is here. And, how it's made of, like, um, it's not about numbers. It's not about bureaucracy. It's about how, like, really being there for the people and for the animals that are in need in that moment, being there to answer the phone at any hour of any day and try and make ourselves available. This is an organization that's been going on for 20 years. It's run entirely by volunteers. These are people that just like jump in and jump to action. We go into fire zones, we go into hoarding cases, we're called by the police in the middle of the night, or Red Cross, uh, domestic violence cases to come in. Literally right before I got in this conversation, I got a call from the hospital that a woman's being hospitalized but won't go without her dog having a safe place. So I'm going to go pick that dog up right after we get off this conversation. So really what it is like, this organization is well run by an amazing group of like volunteer staff, and it just feels like such an honor to be included with all of these people that are making this happen every single day. But it's, the heart still remains the same, the heart of it, and the it hasn't been clouded or jaded. It hasn't been like, oh, we have to run more like a business, which we do. We have a very strong process and everything's legit, but the heart remains the true, and that's sorry. um that's, who we are, and what we're here for. um I don't know, if you
This is
have,
great.
yeah, sorry.
Well, you're
um
making me get like hair stand up on my back here. You're doing good.
yeah, well, it's so unusual to have an organization that's been going for 20 years with all of these different people. We have attorneys and punk rock kids, and people that are coming out of like programs, and just like older people, and developmentally disabled adults and children, that everybody, all walks of life, they're all joining together, but they see the heart and they see the vision in it, and they want to be a part of it, and it hasn't been polluted by the hardship, because it is hard. It's not an easy thing. There's so much that goes into this every single day. I'm really amazed that that some of the stuff we were able to pull off, just, but I I'm just so impressed by, you know, that there's very few things in this world that you can lay your hands on like one morning and just directly change the direction of that for like.
Yeah, this is Ken Canfield. I echo the two other comments. It's awesome. You guys are doing this. This will distinguish you. It really will. And SuperDoge, heard about it, haven't done anything with it, but we're into the 350,000 children are born every day in the world, 140 million a year, and all of them had dads. And if you look at one of the big challenges in any culture, North America leading the way, fatherlessness. That is, kids not having dads that pay attention to them, invest in their life. It brings a whole host of negative problems. So we've been working in Africa. Of course, our large work is here in North America. We have about 100,000 on our email list that we email weekly to help them be excellent fathers. So we have excellence in the family. We're going to have healthy future, particularly for children. So that's what we're all about at fathers.com. Yeah, my background, I have a PhD in research, and what I found probably in the 80s is there was a huge negative impact when kids didn't know where their dads were or how they were connected. And sometimes it's homes where dads are, they just get swamped with other things. And so what we did in 1990, so we've been around 32 years, is raise the banner of responsible fathering. I had no idea it'd take me to the White House. That was the time we had a president who grew up fatherless, and that was Bill Clinton. And unfortunately, whatever you think of is, a clarion call to help dads when they first become fathers throughout their life course to stay focused and to be attuned to that. So I've written a lot of books and scientific articles. And so I had no idea that I'd be called to Africa. Much of the tribalism and the wars, I mean, why do Hutus slaughter Tutsis? It's rooted in, fatherlessness. Many of the heads of the tribes grew up in a violent situations, and what do dads do if they're healthy? They moderate behavior. They treat a child with empathy and compassion. They won't allow violence and all this sort of stuff. And so, literally around the world, have brought resources to help dads effectively think about their role as a father, because you only have one shot at this. Children are there probably 18 to 20 years, although it could be argued with North America, the boomerang effect, they end up coming back home, be that as it is. But this notion of, healthy, good fathering is something I think SuperDoge would benefit from just putting out there, because this is a major problem in America. If we looked at just the outflow of hard cash to care for those kids that don't have dads engaged, that are, messed up, incarcerated on drugs, or just not there. The hard cost is $120 billion US dollars every year. And that's aid for dependent children, medical care, all this stuff. And so, man, we would be benefited to help fathers. So, you can go on, we send out weekly tips, ideas, research-based stuff, and we help tons of organizations. I'm just delighted to know Child Enrichment, man, they're doing great stuff. Water is life. Yeah, and even, what we heard with Rocket Dog. So that's a little bit about
Sure.
fathers.com.
So I'm the executive director here, but I also still continue to provide direct service. So when you're looking at overhead costs, in nonprofit world, sometimes, especially in your smaller charities, you wear many, many, many hats. And I think it's important that, I can say for at least our charity, I know that every dollar given to us is turned around and given back and used in the best way to make sure we're giving it back to and what it should be used for the kids.
I agree. Some of the larger charities, the CEOs are taking, $500,000 to $1 million for their salary, which really rubs me the wrong way. I don't think that's where our money should be allocated. It should go directly to the cause. And you guys have a very high score on Charity Navigator, which anyone can publicly check. So I really applaud you guys for, giving it back to your programs and putting it into the hands of the people who need it most.
Yeah, so that's at the local level here. We are in the process of working with one of our board members who works for the local ABC station on just doing a story about, I think we talked about it in the beginning. This is a very new concept. We talk about fundraising all the time, and cryptocurrency fundraising or philanthropy is kind of new out there. So I think the charities, as well as you guys, are kind of setting a new precedent for how nonprofits consider fundraising. But that is something we definitely are wanting people to know, because I think transparency is key. I've learned that in the crypto world so far in the week I've been involved in it, but I think it's also true in nonprofit world. When people give to a charity, they want to know it's making a difference. So any way we can help with that, we are more than willing to as well on a larger scale. That's why we have tried to be as involved in the community as possible, because we want you to know that this is really making a difference in kids' lives, the funds we're receiving. So that's why we wanted to thank you guys directly.
Send us some different charities that mean something to you guys. Even if they're just getting in the vote for next run or the run after, I'm going to continuously be building a portfolio of these charities so that each 3 months we can keep growing those. And for the charities that are involved or have been our first 3, the ones that are voted in this vote or this round, you're all going to be continuing on that. So you'll always be in a spot to be voted for, and we really hope the community really gets to know all of you and be able to support you even further this way as well.